give us one moment. We're just going to check a little something. One of the hardest things to do as an orchestral musician is take the time you need to be in tune. Now, in a professional setting, there's an expectation that we do it super fast and everything's all ready, and that's because we've tuned already. But when you're a kid, or even when you're an adult, every once in a while, it can be really intimidating to take the time you need to be in tune. Because string instruments are crazy. They have 4 different strings, they all go out of tune at different times for different reasons in different ways, and you breathe on it funny, it's out of tune again. So one of the things that we practice in these orchestras is defending each other's right to be in tune. That's why you saw our concertmaster stand up and wait. And he waited and he did a great job. He just stood up there and waited until everybody was finished. And we really want that to be a priority for everybody because it's a hard thing to do. So welcome to the second half of our program. My name is John Fetter. I'm the director of the HSS, the Hochstein Sinfonia strings you see in front of you. I'm also the conductor of the Hochstein Philharmonia Orchestra, which is our first full orchestra experience that we have here at Hochstein. The first piece that the Sinfonia is going to play for you is a piece called Skylife by a man named David Balakrishnan. And David Balakrishnan is the second violinist in the Turtle Island String Quartet. And the Turtle Island String Quartet is known for being the first string quartet to make a living playing jazz, or playing funk, or playing rock. There were other groups out there that did other things, the Kronos Quartet being one of them, that did lots and lots of different kinds of things. But the Turtle Island String Quartet really spent a lot of time as string players sounding like jazz musicians, which is not always what string players do. So when we learned this piece, one of the most challenging things for us is to play rhythmically in a way that isn't really the way we play in Mozart, or Beethoven, or Tchaikovsky, like we do at the end of the program. So to play rhythmically this way requires a certain kind of aggression in the bow arm that doesn't really translate to all of the classical styles that we play. So it's been a lot of work, it's also a lot of fun, but it's a very, very challenging piece. If you listen to the Turtle Island String Quartet on one of their old albums play this piece, Skylife, this is what you hear. It's this piece. So this isn't arranged. The only thing that's arranged about it is that they added a bass part, so we have some, real low end going in addition to the cellos. So it's a lot of fun. It's a really great piece. I encourage you to kind of check out the Turtle Island String Quartet out there in the world of recorded music that we all have access to these days. But here's Skylife. Oh, I should say, we're going to have a couple of soloists. As is tradition, you want to clap after the solo's done, go ahead, but don't worry about it. We're going to give them lots of applause at the end too. So, okay, here's Skylife. One of the trickiest things about playing jazz is that you have to be, as a soloist, able to walk up to the microphone and then walk back again. We're going to go to them. saw some looks, right? Excellent job. That is some real stuff. I'll be honest. It's a great concert closer. Unless it doesn't go all that well. But that went really well! It went so well. That was awesome. That was great. Okay, so go ahead and change your seats, ladies and gentlemen. So what you're seeing is our seating change. Our seating change is, whoop, I'm throwing Dr. Smith's baton all over the planet here. So we rotate seats in our orchestras because sitting in the front is easy and sitting in the back is hard. I'll put it in a nutshell, that's why. I'm a violinist, I've sat in the front a whole lot, I've sat in the back a whole lot. It's always harder sitting in the back because you've got to, like, it's like driving the back of those old fire engines that, you know, you have to get around the curve and oh my gosh, look up. So you'll notice that people that were sitting in the very front are now sitting in the very back, and people who are sitting in the middle of the sections tend to kind of rotate around, and then on the next concert we do different people sitting in the front, because no matter how good a player you are, you can always benefit from being in a different place, and it's always good to sit with different stand partners and learn how you can help each other. We have a whole lot of strengths in this group, but not everybody is equivalently strong. We're not all in the same place, and we can help each other by moving around and sitting in different places. And are we short? See, I was right. That's one of those weird moments. We have, the sections are just a little uneven because we have two more violins in one section than the other, so sometimes we get a little confused there. Sorry about that. I'm going to let our next conductor introduce our next piece. You may have noticed Dr. Terry Smith going around with the microphone. That is not her only job. In fact, that is not her job at all. She was just willing to help us out. But Dr. Terry Smith is our new assistant director of this ensemble, the Hochstein Sinfonia Strings. She's a fabulous musician and a good friend and a wonderful person to add to our conducting group here at the Hochstein School. So I'm going to let her introduce the next piece. Please welcome her.
Thank you very much. It's truly a pleasure and a privilege to work with these fine musicians on stage and to work with Dr. Fetter. So the piece that we're performing next is called Adoration by a woman named Florence Price. And how many of you have ever heard of Florence Price before? Yay! So she is a remarkable composer, musician. She was a pianist. She lived from the late 1800s into the mid-1950s. And her work is very little known. It's much more recently been discovered and been given the light that it deserves. Around 2009, many of her works were discovered in one of her abandoned summer homes. But she grew up in Arkansas. She did most of her musical life in Chicago. And she is an amazing African-American woman composer, and for that reason, we're celebrating her today. It seems appropriate at the end of Black Heritage Month and the beginning of Women's History Month that we would shed some light on some of her beautiful pieces. She's written symphonic works and won awards for those, is known as the first African-American woman to have any of her pieces performed by a prestigious symphony orchestra. It was the Chicago Symphony. And she's written choral works, cantatas, chamber music, and solo pieces. Adoration was originally written for organ, and it is exactly what the title indicates. It's sort of this awe-inspiring beauty of calm and beautiful harmonies, which is challenging, I would say, in a different way for this group, because if you know these students up here, and if you have lived through your preteens and tweens, then you know that calm and patience and repose is probably the farthest thing from what your natural setting is. So this is a really disciplined work for these students, and it's challenging, and they've been doing an amazing job. And at any point in this piece, because it was written for organ, you will hear 6 to 9 part harmony, which is extraordinary. I don't think this group has ever played with that depth and that responsibility for their own harmonic line. So this is Adoration by Florence Price.
Before we go on, I just want to say a couple of things. First, how about a round of applause for that chamber group that played at the beginning of this concert? It was really fabulous fun. Why don't you guys go ahead and stand up? Stand up! Yay! Nice job! And also, I'd like to say, how about a hand for the concertino strings up there? Nice job, ladies and girls. Well done. It is such a pleasure to work at the Hochstein School of Music. It really is such a pleasure. And one of the great things about this school is the youth orchestra program. I really feel great about it, not just because I'm involved in it, but because it really offers a full spectrum of orchestral experiences, opportunities for string players, opportunities for woodwinds and brass when we get a little older into the Hochstein Philharmonia. And it really has a world-class, outstanding faculty and a really welcoming environment. If you've never walked around the Hochstein School on Saturday mornings, when the big orchestra's in here, and there's little kid classes going on in the orph rooms, it's just a great place to be. So I really want to say thank you to all the Hochstein staff, to Daniel and Randy, who help us, make everything look so special and fancy. And just how about a round of applause for the whole building and all we do. It's just a wonderful place. They're having too much fun with their feet. They're having too much fun with their feet. I also want to say thank you to Kylie Parton, who Kylie did play bass for the concertino strings, and then when I asked her to do that, I said, hey, do you want to just play the Sinfonia stuff too? Which, I'll be honest, and she knows this, the Sinfonia program, in some ways for bass, was a little more challenging than her last HBO program. But she put it together in just a couple weeks, like, sure, I'll play. So she's been playing hours and hours and hours a day, just with us, let alone the time she had to put on herself. So thanks to Kylie, thank you for thanking her. And I just want to say thanks to Dr. Smith as well. Working with a professional like that has been a great pleasure to have her come aboard, and I'm happy that she's a part of our Hochstein conducting crew. The last piece we're going to play for you is the last movement of the Tchaikovsky String Serenade. And it's a famous piece of music that you've heard in lots of environments, lots of places, I'm sure. But I want you to, if it's new to you, you're in for a real treat. If it's not new to you, I want you to suspend your knowledge of the piece as much as you can, because the way it starts out with this beautiful, dreamy, slow introduction, and then the horses go kicking off down the lane. One of the things that Dr. Smith said about adoration, this piece you get to be a kid, because after being slow and controlled, you get to go, and we take off like we're racing down the lane as fast as we can. It's a really delightful piece of music. It's a great way to end a concert because it just fills me full of joy when I hear it, and I'm sure it'll do the same for you. This is the last movement of the Tchaikovsky Serenade for Strings.